going to introduce you guys to your moderator for this panel. Please welcome her back to the stage, the creator of A History of the Batman. Please welcome London Jackson back to the stage.
I have been coming back. You're just getting a chair. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, everybody. I am so excited because, you know, here at LA Comic Con we get to celebrate so much pop culture and movies and just amazing television. So I am stoked to be moderating this Boy Meets World panel with some of the original cast of the acclaimed 90s series. So let's just welcome them out. We have William Daniels, and we have Bonnie Bartlett, we have Ryder Strong, and we have Will Friedle. So, I think they're all gonna come out here now. Oh, here we go. There's Ryder Strong. Will Friedle. Oh, and we have William Daniels coming. Iconic. And we have Bonnie Bartlett. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks for having us.
For coming. Okay. So, how are you guys doing today, first of all?
Good.
Good?
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here in front of all of these fans of Boy Meets World.
Oh my God.
Right?
It's so bright.
So, we are all huge fans of the series, and why do you think just now, today, that Boy Meets World is still such a favorite TV series for people discovering it now and who watched it when it originally aired? What do you think was the spark that really made that series resonate with so many people?
Wow. Yeah, you know, it's something that we've talked about over the years because it kind of surprises us that it's lasted this long. I remember when the show ended in 2000, I went to college in New York, and I was, you know, taking a break from acting, and I was sort of like, oh, now I can just go be a normal college student and keep my head down. And then the show started airing on Disney Channel, and I would get on the subway at like 2:30 in the afternoon when all the schools in New York would get out, and the kids would just be like, ah! And I was like, oh my God, it's like more popular now than when we were on the air, which was really weird. And it has maintained a presence. I think, I mean, my theory is that, well, I mean, I give a lot of credit to Bill. I think that the character of Mr. Feeney is... I think, you know, the idea that the show was important, that it took itself seriously. You know, it was always a funny show, and it had a lot of ridiculous, crazy things in it, mostly done by this guy. It was absurd, but then it had so much heart, and you know, it took things seriously, like the Corey Topanga relationship, the Sean and Angela relationship, and Mr. Feeney always sort of saying like, hey, you know, this is, be a good person, dream, try, do good, you know, those messages. It made for a kind of a schizophrenic show. Like it's really funny at times and it's really dramatic. And I think at the time that made it kind of a weird show. But it's lasted longer than a lot of other the kid sitcoms from that era. Because a lot of the other kid sitcoms were much more like, let's make fun of our teachers and get in trouble. And it was just sort of like making a joke out of being a kid. And Boy Meets World didn't. And I don't know, that's my theory.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it also had to do with Corey Topanga.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wanted to watch the show and then meet the love of their life when they were 5, which happens all the time. No, it never happens. So I think people like that. It was that idealist, you know, kind of young love dream, which people liked. But I also think, like anything that lasts, it comes down to the writing a lot when it comes to television shows or movies that people want to continue to watch and that still hold up. And I think a lot of it has to do with the writing and the stories. And they get absurd at times. I mean, when you find yourself in a couch Or like
A lobster
a lobster outfit. But then you'd be like an alcoholic for an episode.
2 episodes.
2 episodes.
Join a cult for one.
You
episode.
joined a cult at one point, so we never knew what we were kind of walking into. Where it was like, oh, Sean's an alcoholic for 6 pages.
What was the craziest thing for you? Like the craziest Eric moment as far as an outfit or thing you had to do?
Plays with Squirrels was pretty. That was pretty great. There's a scene from Plays with Squirrels right there, holding up the secret of life. Yes. Plays with Squirrels was pretty crazy.
Most out there?
No, the most out there, I think, is the episode where Corey is, or where Eric is stalking Topanga. So he's like always he's in the trunk of the tree, and then he's on the couch at the end, and yeah, it was weird. But they always had like we always called it the 2 Boy Meets World because there was one show where it was Ryder and Ben and Danielle and Trina, and then it was kind of myself and Matt Lawrence and Maitland, and we all did. It was like you guys had this dramatic kind of like, and then it was like cutting to us to do the wacky stuff.
Yep.
And I always tell people when there was an episode that was about Eric, it was the week that Ben Savage had his finals. So it was like, hey, Ben's taking his SATs, I get a show. So it was, yeah, it was certainly interesting. But that was the weirdest thing. You were an alcoholic, I was a couch. That's what they did. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just think that I know it is amazing to Bill and me that so many people think of Mr. Feeney as a role model, as a grandfather, really, as a man who. They still want his advice, and they want him to give the advice that he gave to people on the show. And so many years later, it just appalls Bill. He really doesn't understand it, but he does it, and he does a lot of cameos for people, and people want advice. They want Mr. Feeney's advice. So he repeats many of the things that he did on the show. And it's great, and it's at his age, he's so happy to have it. So happy to have it. Did you say that?
Did I say what?
Say that. Say something. Say something.
I'm at a loss for words.
They met when they were 5 years old. In a sandbox.
Well, since we love to praise Mr. Feeney because he's an amazing actor, character, and you guys basically, you grew up with him on the series, so can you talk a bit about the experience you had working with him and throughout the seasons, and just kind of how maybe your bond grew with him on the screen and off the screen, and how that made the series itself just a stronger.
Well, for the first 3 seasons, we thought he was British. That is not a joke. No, we honestly thought he was British. He wasn't. But it was one of those things where we all, I know now as an adult actor, I thank God that we got to kind of grow up around Bill as actors. Because he's as a consummate professional. He was never late, never dropped a line. He always knew his parts. So it kind of taught us how to be professional actors. He never treated us like we were kids. We were co-stars. So it didn't matter that you were 11, 12, 13 years old. You had a job to do. You had work. And it was a wonderful way to learn how to become a professional actor. I mean, at least for me.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really know who Bill was when we started, and our executive producer's name was Michael, and so during one of the note sessions, I heard Bill say, "Now, Michael," and I was like, "That's your kid! You were a kid!" That's all I cared about. No, Bill, when you're on a sitcom, they rewrite the script every night. And so we would never memorize our lines until the very last minute. But Bill would show up 3 hours early every day, completely memorized every day. He's just a consummate professional and such a great role model for us. and we were kids, we were goofing off, but because of Michael and Bill, there was a real air of like professionalism on our set that I don't think a lot of other kids shows had. I would agree. It was a kind of crazy, and there was also a real emphasis within the show on education and schooling, and that also bled into the set. We had amazing studio teachers. They gave a lot of Will made the joke, but it was actually part of this. When Ben had finals, he got the week off because it was really important that he did well in school. And the show, when I graduated high school, I went to the producers. I wanted to go to college, and they gave me every morning off to go take classes at Occidental here in LA while still working on the show. They worked the whole schedule around allowing me to go to college, which they didn't have to do. I was under a 6-year contract on Boy Meets World. They didn't have to do that, but they were accommodating our education. It was a really, really great environment.
I agree.
Sure. It's amazing to see how grown up they've become. Because when we did the show, they were really young teenagers. And I've got to say they were very well behaved. And I would stay in my dressing room because they fooled around a lot. And until they got serious, then I'd come out and we'd do a scene for the show. And then I'd go back into my dressing room.
It's true. I think a lot of my fondest memories of the show were scenes that Eric and Mr. Feeney had together. Because they weren't supposed to be together. It was supposed to be Corey and Mr. Feeney together. So the idea of Eric and Mr. Feeney together was so absurd that it could never work. And then you put them together, and for some reason it just did, weirdly.
So it was the ultimate straight man.
Yeah, it was just, yeah.
I mean, you would just be doing these insane things, and Bill would never break a smile.
I don't think I cracked him one time. Not one time do I think I got him to laugh. But it was, but again, it's not to say he was stern on the set, because he wasn't. It was a joy to work with. But it was different generations working together. We certainly had them. And that was the thing that was interesting about the show, is it really was generational, because we had everybody from, Bill to Rusty and Betsy, who played our parents, to then kind of teachers that were a little younger than that, to then us, to then Lily Nixon. I mean, we went the 14 little sisters we had. They just kept changing every week. It was like, what's your name? Hi, okay, great. I'm kidding, we had 2 and they were wonderful. We kind of hit every generation, which I thought was kind of cool. So maybe that's why it still resonates, because a lot of the fans that are now watching the show are like under the age of 15, which is
You needed to sit down, so.
and Girl Meets World, yeah, that go back to watch Boy Meets World. I didn't know that there was a show beforehand. Yeah.
But as you were saying, between even Girl Meets World and the original Boy Meets World series, watching the episodes now, you see a lot of the themes and issues that people deal with today, even if the show is from the 90s. So are there any particular or memorable episodes or scenes that kind of you would believe still would resonate with people today, like topics